Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Sony Simplified. My name is Ken, and today we're going to talk about the beginner's guide to magnificent bokeh. So we're going to compare the Alpha 7 Mark IV's 28 to 70, 3.5 to 5.6 kit lens to the 50 millimeter F1.4 G Master. And we're going to focus on 3 reasons why the G Master will create better bokeh than the kit lens. So follow me on the journey. So in the spirit of the title being the beginner's guide, let's break down what we're going to talk about. So this is what we're going to briefly discuss, and I'll read that back to you. So 1, we want to make sure we get an understanding of what bokeh is and why it matters to your photography. Number 2, we're going to talk about a little bit about the features of the 50 millimeter F1.4 G Master and why it creates that better bokeh. And then we're going to wrap that up into those features of the G Master lens, making it a great option for beginners. Now, I know what you're saying. I know what you're thinking. Ken, the G Master lens is not a beginner's lens. Well, stick with me on the journey, and I hope to be able to get you to think a little differently about what's beginner or not. So let's get started. So first off, what is bokeh? Simply defined, bokeh is the blurring of any out of focus portion of your shot or anything outside of your depth of field on your photo. Very simply. Now, one cool thing about creating bokeh is the larger the f-stop of the lens, indicated by a small number in the aperture setting, the more potential bokeh can be achieved. So based on your bokeh allows your shot to be more pleasing, more cinematic, and it helps draw the attention of the viewer to your intended subject by better isolating the subject. So as you take a look at the flower, as we stop from f1.4 to f4 to f5.6 to f8 to f11, suddenly the flower is not necessarily what's the subject that I really want you to pay attention to. Now, if in fact I wanted the flower and the entire garden, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if I really wanted you to focus on that flower, that's where bokeh plays a part. And as you saw, f1.4 can certainly do it for you. So let's go ahead and discuss the 3 features why I think the 50 millimeter f1.4 G Master can benefit a beginner. I know, just stick with me. So first of all, it has a max aperture or f-stop of f1.4. That brings in an incredible amount of light, allowing for better bokeh. It allows for shallower depth of field so that you can in fact more isolate your subject. As an example, let's take a look. So the cool thing about f1.4 is it also, like I said, it brings in a lot of light. So as you take a look at the kit lens, the 28 to 70, and focus on the flower bouquet in the front, you do in fact see some level of defocusing or bokeh. But as you can see, when we move to the F1.4 G Master, now you've got an incredible amount of defocusing, an incredible amount of bokeh, really isolating the front flower arrangement. Now, we purposely did this in low light because I wanted you to be able to understand what it's capable of doing, because you're not always taking shots outside. You don't always have the best light to work with. So as you think about what you just saw with the really low light on the front flower, you're still going to get an incredibly sharp amount of focus and an incredible amount of bokeh. So number 2, it has an aperture ring. It allows you to move from F1.4 through the range of F16. I can use this to make quick manual adjustments for varying lighting conditions, or if I want to just simply lock in on a particular amount of defocusing or bokeh that I want to create my shot. So as an example, we take a look at the kit lens. What you'll see on the right-hand side is the back of a car, right? And then you'll see down the street the bokeh that is created by the kit lens. Now, on the 50 millimeter f1.4, because I can maintain my aperture, I let in more light. So at f1.4, now the car is even more prominent and the bokeh is even more pronounced. Now, I do want to mention one thing. No post editing has been done to the photos because I really wanted you guys to be able to understand what the kit lens can do and what having an aperture ring on the 50 millimeter 1.4 G Master will allow you to do. So if you think about it from a beginner's perspective, I can now lock in a constant aperture and still be able to move my shutter speed in order to create the image that I'm looking to create. Because as you well know, aperture and shutter speed are not mutually exclusive. If I move one, the other one's going to change. And that's just part of photography. But however, when you have a lens such as this, I can lock in that aperture and then I can move my shutter speed to my taste based on what I want to accomplish. Gang, that's clutch. And for a beginner, I'll be honest with you, that's like a par 3 hole in one with a witness. Can't beat that. So number 3, the G Master lens has an 11 blade iris. So that is the circle as you open up your aperture or close it. The 11 blade iris gives it a more circular form, which gives you more natural looking bokeh, right? So as an example, let's take a look. As you see the walkway, what I've done is I've focused on the plaque on the wall. Now, as your eyes look down the walkway, it's very pleasing, and there's a amount of defocusing that you can actually see, and there's nothing wrong with that. But as you can see, when we move over to the 50 millimeter f1.4 at the same spot, I'm still focused on the plaque. Now there's an incredible amount of defocusing and bokeh as you look down the walkway. So in this particular case, I wanted you to focus on the plaque and not necessarily the entire courtyard. Now, once again, with the ability to move the aperture, if the image on the left was what you were trying to achieve, no problem. But we're talking about bokeh today, and we want to make sure that you see what kind of bokeh is very possible. Okay, so let's take a moment to look at the chat and see if you have any questions or comments. Everyone's kind of quiet today. We've got Rainier answering some questions. Thank you. I really appreciate that. This is why we like the community. This is why we like the conversation. We don't want this to be a download. Let's see. Shout out from Ronan. Hey, Ronan, thanks for being. I know that you participate in Mini Simplified. We really appreciate your loyalty to the Sony. Okay. Well, not a whole lot going on, but that's okay. That's okay. So in closing, we are honored to be your system of choice. And we really, really appreciate that. And that does not fall flat on us at all. So if you like this content, if you like Simplified, please take an opportunity to like, subscribe, and smash that notification bell so that you can keep up on more content and some of the latest content that we've already put out. And let's make sure you understand, If you've made a purchase recently of a Sony product, please register. Take advantage of the perks and all the things that we do for registration. That's very, very important, including if you purchased a camera or a lens, you get an additional year of warranty. That's not 1 year, that's 2. So not bad. Please don't miss that opportunity to get 2 years of warranty. And if this has been great to you and you want to know more, and just in our time constraint, we don't have the ability to answer as many questions as we'd like, please consider signing up for our one-on-one consultation program. That's where you get 30 minutes with a Sony expert where we will answer pre and post purchase questions, as well as giving you some recommendations, right? And if you want to take a deeper dive into the conversation that we had today, that's the place to do it. That is absolutely the place to do it. So right before we roll off, team, I mentioned that I want it to be a conversation. So what I'd like to know is, what would you like for us to create? What kind of conversation would you like us to create? So what we're going to do is put on the screen a couple of different options. One, would you like to see us review and have a conversation about the 85 F1.8 G versus the Alpha 7 kit lens? Would you like outdoor nature photography? Summertime's coming up. Or would you like to talk about graduation portrait photography tips? Also coming up. Or I'll even say this as a wild card, just tell us what you think, right? We'd love to hear from you. That's very, very important to us. So as I butt up against my time, team, on behalf of my awesome producer, David, and the team that brings you here and brings the Simplified here, thank you for being here. This has been Sony Simplified. My name is Ken. We'll see you in the next one.